Hi, I'm Peggy Kelly, and this is Good Morning Santa Paula. It's Thursday, March 18th, and our guest today is Carlos Juarez, the mayor of Santa Paula, and he's got a lot to update us on today. So good morning, Carlos. Lovely seeing you as always. How are you?
Good morning, Peggy Kelly, and good morning, Santa Paula. Doing well, and I think each day that we manage through this pandemic, things are looking better.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only agree. And you've got a lovely background, of course, and I know it's real because your leaves are moving. If it was green screen, your new leaves wouldn't be moving. But anyway, very nice.
Thank you.
Isn't it nice that we have some good weather? Excuse me. Let's talk about COVID. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, things are changing so quickly. Just when you put out some information, the county or the state comes up with either different guidelines or different tiers or different vaccines and availability. But the good note about that is that it appears to be getting available more. I mean, you
Yes.
remember when it first started, there was a lot of difficulty in folks getting either on the website or calling the numbers, and the county got more people staffed so they can answer all the multitude of phone calls and the emails. And then, they only have so many vaccines at the start of each week. And I think they said that I think they had what the number they gave at the Wednesday's elected officials conference call,
I think it was 14,500.
something within like an hour or two, and they were already all scheduled.
Mhm.
So, and you have the choice of three different vaccines now, and I hear from different people that are receiving them. And of course, anytime you get a vaccine, sometimes there's some side effects, and sometimes there isn't. One thing for sure, people do have a sore arm, and if we can get away with just that, I think that's all the better. But I just need to emphasize, just like we do any chance we get, is that we're far from being over this. And even today, when I walk by and I see the news, they talk about states that are still having a spike. And we certainly don't want to be that. We're doing good as a state. We're doing good as a county and an area, and better as a city. And I think that we just need to remind folks about masks, social distancing, and frequent hand washing. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the new normal from now on. I think you'll see more of that until everybody is vaccinated or, yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to. It's still out there, and it's still a killer. I mean, let's be real. And people, it's up to all of us. And I'm glad that you gave us that update. And of course, now they've got the vaccination center in Santa Paula at the former Kmart. Excuse me, which of course is appointment only, but they are jammed, I'm hearing. So that's wonderful. And it is a matter of just getting more vaccine. We're ready, to put it in a lot of arms, but it's a matter of getting the vaccine. So,
And certainly there's a lot of folks that want to get the vaccine. And what we heard is that there's folks from other counties that are trying to come into other counties to get the vaccine. And in reality, I mean, you hate to say that, but each county has to fend for themselves. And because you got to take care of the people that you're responsible for. So if folks show up to our testing site and they're from another county, they, pleasantly tell them, sorry, but, it has to be for our county residents. And the fact that we have a vaccination site in Santa Paula is just wonderful, because that was one of the challenges, is folks that either don't have a way to get to Ventura or Camarillo or whatever, have to get a ride, and then they're a little self-conscious about being in a car with somebody else. So just being able to drive down to the old Kmart site, which is being utilized for vaccination site, is just great for Santa Paula.
absolutely. And they've changed the Harding Park testing site too. I guess where you go and they hand you kits now. And and then you can mail it back, or you can give it back to them there if you go ahead and stick around. But so that's interesting.
Yes, they were experiencing a slight decline in the people that were going to Harding Park, and so they thought it was just cost effective uh, to make it a self-test site. And so if people can drive up, get a test kit, go do the test kit, and then send it in, and within a few days you get the results.
Yes, and very rapidly too. So that's great. Now I know yesterday. Let's talk some council business, other council business. Yesterday, the council had a study session about economic development and stimulating the local economy. How long did you discuss that?
We were in a special session starting at 4 o'clock, and it was supposed to go 2 hours. So it went about 2 hours and about 12 minutes. but it was a good discussion from a presentation from staff about where we are as far as our income revenues and the opportunity for generating revenue. And anytime you talk about generating revenue, sometimes there's an impact to the community. So they talked everything from a utility tax to franchise fees to grant proposals, and and again, some things aren't as popular as others, and some things don't really have an impact as much as others. For example, if they have a transit occupancy tax for people that come in and use hotels and motels, it affects people that come and visit and vacation in Santa Paula, but doesn't impact our residents, and we get the income from it. So that, of course, would be a plus. But a utility tax, that would be kind of a negative because we're being we just had to raise our water and sewer rates, and our understanding is there's a possibility that Edison might raise their rates. So we're going to have a presentation from Southern California Edison to see if that is in fact happening. So there's a lot of things that we discussed, and no decisions were made last night. It was just the way each of the council members were asked, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Or are you neutral? And so our city manager and staff got just kind of a feeling on some of the things they should pursue based on our feelings, and then others that definitely didn't seem like was something the council would support. So I'm going to be more study sessions and a lot more research that's going to happen before these move forward.
Oh, okay, great. So, but you did go over a lot of different options and things like that. Okay, wonderful. Any particular ideas that stuck in your head as far as any revenue generators? I mean, you mentioned taxes, and of course the people would have to, impose that on themselves basically if it was a tax. So you didn't pretty much count that out. But are they looking to maybe put a little emphasis on economic growth as far as tourism? Are they looking at more industrial? I mean, you're looking at everything, I guess.
I mean, they're looking at everything from better business improvement plan. And in fact, one of some of the things we're reevaluating are fees. Because some just appear to be they need to be updated, because some things they cost a lot, but there isn't a whole lot that's expected in some of the inspections. And for years we've heard that new businesses trying to come into town found it a challenge. So they're trying to work together with our economic development department to try to streamline the process, not only the permit process but also the inspection process, and then make the fees comparable to other cities so that it invites people to come to Santa Paula and set up shop. And like for example, one of the thoughts was this one's an interesting one. So one is the concept of bringing back bingo, and it was popular years ago, and things sometimes run their course, but then some folks miss it, and it is a possibility of a revenue generation but it has to be run by a nonprofit. It cannot be run by the city. So if there's a nonprofit out there that wants to do a bingo, it would certainly be a draw. Another one that wasn't probably so well received was like parking meters. Number one, there's parking is always a challenge, but I guess if you had parking meters, it would cause people to move or put money into the machines. But then you also have the enforcement aspect of it. So there's just a lot of things we talked about.
And there are a lot of things. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And bingo, that's really kind of intriguing because our nonprofits have been hit so hard with the COVID too, so that could be a win-win for everyone, a bingo for everyone. So I'll have to look at I know I can't see a tape, but I'll find out as much as I can and do a follow-up report on that. But thank you for letting us know. And then of course, after that, you had a council meeting. Yes. Regular council meeting. So what's new with the regular council meeting?
Well, the challenge recently has been to move forward with the sports park at Harvest at Limonera. And so I had to recuse myself because I have a conflict because of ownership of stock in Limonera. But the other 4 council members discussed in detail getting a loan from Limonera so that it would help to get the process of the park funded and financed and built now. And the concept behind that would be the longer you wait, the more costs go up and prevailing wage and all that. So money now to get it done, because it is things that cause people to buy are the amenities. And when they say they're going to have a sports park and then they live there for 6 months and you don't see any movement. Well, I think the fact that they're moving forward with finding funding for it, besides not only the foundation that was recently formed, but also the possibility of a loan to get a jump start on the park. So I think you'll be seeing some movement in that really, really soon.
Yeah, they're gonna, yeah, I know they want to try to get the ground broken as soon as possible. And there's several options they have on getting a loan, isn't there?
Yes, and like I said, I wasn't privy to that conversation, but
Right.
they were exploring the different ways of advancing money for.
And basically, so the audience understands, it would be advancing money. That's a good way to put it, because the city will have at their disposal $11 million total between impact fees from Lehman Era, and also money they had gone ahead and said that they would donate basically to build a new civic center in Harvest, which didn't come about, but they still had, the city still had that commitment. So, but I know to build it out to everybody's dream park would cost more than that, by at least $5, $6, $7 million. But still, $11 is a nice start. But some of that also depends upon how many units are completed before they make these payments. So
Yes.
that's what the city is trying to do, is speed it up. Correct.
And in talking about development, whenever a developer comes in and they have over a certain amount of housing units, there's in lieu fee for housing. And so that's one of the items we talked about last night, was what to do with this money. And so some of the recommendations were to move some of that money to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as well as, let's see, a first-time homeowner buyers plan through a funding source in Ventura. And that's called the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Housing Trust Fund of Ventura County. So last night, there was a recommendation by staff to forward 50,000 each year for 5 years, to a total of 250,000, and that really comes back, manyfold, because the last time we had money advanced to that entity, we got back close to 825,000 in benefits. So
Yeah.
it's certainly win-win. But last night, there were some public speakers who suggested several. They had questions, and valid, good questions. But also one of them was a recommendation: instead of waiting 5 years, why not advance the total amount of money now? That way, they got that much money to work for, and that helps us with our housing needs as well. So after some discussion, it was decided unanimously to forward the $250,000 in front and send it immediately, so that the this trust fund can utilize it. So
Right.
that's a plus for those folks that are going to be first-time buyers, and sometimes they're economically challenged. So
Yes, absolutely. Now, did they do anything with the, is that same trust fund, is that the same pot of money, or that's different from the city's, the housing issue as far as loans, or excuse me, grants that are only payable when the property changes hands again? Was that part of that package?
I think there were two separate. I don't want to get mixed up. There's one where they're talking about that if the loan is kept by, or the homeowner keeps the loan for 30 years, and that loan is forgiven. So yes, there are some opportunities out there for people to get a jump start. And of course, when you first take out a loan, if you go in at the very bare minimum, you have what do they call it when you got to pay
Mortgage insurance?
mortgage insurance, PMI. There you go. And so if you can reach a higher threshold, then that goes away. So there are some pluses to this, and there was a discussion about the chart that they use, the rating chart, and one of the suggestions that the council made was they listed, for example, homeless and homeless families and homeless individuals had a rating of like 5. Where it talked about the criteria for a four-bedroom house had 10. And as a percentage, and we said, oh gosh, if somebody is living in somebody's living room, they think they're homeless, even though they have a roof over their head. So I mean, it's beneficial to try to get these folks that are bona fide homeless as far as the criteria, by living in somebody's living room or garage, and get them some housing. So I think the staff is going to come back and be about reorganizing some of those criteria for the rating.
And the Housing Trust Fund, that's the organization that makes the loans to nonprofits, don't they, to build, and then they charge a very small interest rate to nonprofits, and then that goes back into the pot, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing to help supply more and more affordable housing. And of course, affordable housing nowadays, especially in Ventura County, is a very high threshold. So it really opens up a lot of opportunities for people, and that's who cannot afford to buy a house without some help. But I think the Housing Trust Fund maybe concentrates more on the more moderate households, but I'm not sure. But it's still, it's a great organization.
Yes.
I'm glad
That
to hear
money-
that.
that
Anything
money-
else happen with council we should know about?
Well, just again, piggybacking on that, the money that comes in that's utilized by those agencies does and helps us with our needs eventually for our mandate on housing. So it was a good meeting. I went not too late. I think some council members would like it to go longer. We went until about 9:30 and got quite a bit done. And my understanding is that there's going to be more discussions like this coming back, and so I think you'll be seeing longer council meetings. But there was quite a bit of items that were discussed last night. But those were really the most important things was the food park and the housing and public benefit.
Oh,
And
that's what the other loan public benefit. That's right. Yeah, well, that's great. Now, what's going on? I know Parks and Rec is very busy right now, getting ready for the spring season. So
they're getting ready for the Easter Bunny and Easter events, and they just started putting together a virtual scavenger hunt, which they're going to be doing. Is it the 28th? I think. Let me look at my calendar. I think it's the. Oh, forgive me. Is it 27th? Oh, it's marked as the 27th. So they're doing a scavenger hunt, and so that's every time you go down to the Parks and Rec, the seniors are looking for things to do and help, and of course the youth are always looking for something to do. So the Parks and Rec department is pretty busy, and they do a fantastic job of publicizing what's doing on Facebook. So you'll see their Facebook posts coming out, but that's supposed to be happening next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but the 27th. I'm sorry.
the 27th. And anything else going on we should know about?
Well, let's see. Well, I just went down there today, and they want to start doing like Zumba classes and other classes because seniors they want to get out there and do stuff, but they really need to follow the guidelines. So they're talking about having discussions about doing these events, but for now, they have to do it outside because even though we just kind of passed over this on the going into the red, there's a lot of things that opened up. Like for example, restaurants now can have inside dining at 25%, and the restriction used to be that it had to be everybody at the table was from the same family, but now that you can have up to 3 different families. And of course, as people get vaccinated, those restrictions and also the ability to do different things open up depending on who's vaccinated, how long you've been vaccinated, and like who you can associate with. So, but the recommendation, of course, is always going to be to wear a mask until you can, like 2 people get to the same location that have been vaccinated, and then they say, well, we both been vaccinated, and it's been 2 weeks since my last dose. Then they're good to go to sit and converse without a mask on. Now, somebody walking by might look at that and go, wait a minute, shouldn't they be wearing masks? And of course, you can't wear a sign saying I'm vaccinated. But so it's going to be a matter of a lot of folks looking at each other strangely because we've come to accept walking around, driving around and seeing people with masks. And now you're going to see some people without masks. And so you're wondering, are they not being compliant or they've been vaccinated? So,
Yeah. Well, I think, is there a waiting period too, though, for they feel the vaccination to take full effect, a couple of weeks?
couple of weeks after your second dose, if you've had the 2-dose vaccination, if you've had the single dose, I think it still applies to 2 weeks after you've had the dose, but I'm not exactly sure on that one.
Well, as you pointed out not too long ago to me, which is very true, you haven't had a cold all year.
Yes. Yeah, every year, I'm sure everybody experiences something, a sore throat or cold during the year, and this year, nothing. So certainly hand washing, social distancing and masks have helped with that. So
Yes, absolutely. Overall. Yeah, even the regular flu is down, the regular flu. So it shows that it does work and people have to help continue to make it work. Public Works, let's go talk roads.
well, one of the big accomplishments that we just did recently was the Palm Court area, and they had just finished it a few months back, and well, the mere fact that there was no school really helped because that's my peacocks in the background.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, when the school dean virtual learning at home, you wouldn't have the traffic that would have, slowed the progress down or maybe been unsafe for the students at the high school. Well, the fact that they were able to accomplish Palm Court without any students there got it done a pretty good record time, and it just looks fantastic. So that right there, if you get a chance, drive up to Palm Court, and that's just part of our, not only just part of our pavement management plan, because that's just doing maintenance to make sure that the roads that are in, that need maintenance, that they get the maintenance and care that they need. The streets that are in really bad shape, those are going to be a higher cost item. And well, for example, they're going to be doing some work on Harvard Boulevard in the next few months, and that's a capital improvement plan, because they're going to do some infrastructure as far as like drainage pipes and the line. So it wouldn't make sense to pave it and then realize this and now you've got to do some infrastructure with gas lines or drain lines or sewer lines. So it's working out in the right methodology that they're going to do. The digging out, doing the pipe work, and then doing the streets afterwards. So that's a big project coming up on Howard Boulevard in the future. But then we also have, as part of the pavement management plan, some work on Faulkner Road and Peck Road, from the freeway to Harvard, I believe, up to Santa Paula Street. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of work that, and during the winter time, my understanding is that we don't do a lot of the patching, because when you get the rains, it really comes loose with the water and cars driving over it. So that's why you kind of see a slowdown during the winter months. But now that we're coming into spring and summer, now you're going to see a lot of work going on. And you know, when they do this work, it sure causes some tension and upset people, because they're not able to drive where they normally can, or detoured. But when it's done, they'll be really with the work that's going to be done by our public works.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. No, it makes such a difference. And I know I'm starting to notice more fixed streets in town. I mean, there certainly needs a lot more, but I am noticing that there's, more of them that are being fixed. And like you said, with some of the really bad ones, they're going to have to wait for capital improvement projects like piping, because they're going to have to tear the street out anyway to replace it. And they might as well do two things at once. So, and that'll be good too. So I'm really happy. I don't look happy, but I am. Right. So good. Yeah, I'm glad to see it. Anything else that you would like to share with us today?
You know, there's some of the things that you really don't realize, because they either happen when people are at work. Like, for example, they just did a whole bunch of work and repainted the train depot.
Yes.
And it's funny, because when they first did the work, of course they have to come in, they do have some prep work, and then they started doing the work and they had to primer it. So the primer was either white or light gray. Anyway, right away, folks thought that they were changing the depot to white. Well, I think the last time that they went through the color change, because those depots originally were kind of a yellow mustard color, and
Yes.
then they changed it to red. And there's stories behind how it turned red. There's a station master who apparently changed the color for his daughter's senior year, red and white in high school.
Of course, the Cardinals, the red Cardinal.
Oh, it remained that color, and now anytime they think about even changing it back to the mustard color, you got to think about what draws people to Santa Paula. Was they used that train depot for anything from Arnold Vinnick during his campaign when he was in Santa Paula, and the Thornbirds and all these other movies. So
The West Wing, Arnold Vinnick in the West Wing campaign headquarters.
so they decided to leave the color red, and because that would draw the movie industry back into Santa Paula. And speaking of movies, the Mayans are being filmed in town, and as summer warms up and this restrictions come down, I'm almost positive and hopeful that they will continue to film the Mayans, and other film companies will start to come back to Santa Paula.
Uh-huh. And not only that, they painted it a very rich, muted red. I mean, it's a beautiful color. It's not like a glaring red. Like the leave this meeting button or anything like that. I mean, it's a really beautiful, beautiful shade of red, and it matches the Ag Museum, because
Yeah.
they've been painted together years and years ago. So it looks really good, and they did some work there also. So we're replacing some siding, I believe, and things like that. So it's because it is an entryway issue. It's right there when people come down up or down 10th there. So that's great. Yeah, no, it's very good. Anything else, Carlos, Mr. Mayor?
I just, this last year was probably the most challenging that most people have seen in a long time. It was very challenging for our youth. It was challenging for our older folk, for our businesses. My goodness, they just, those that couldn't survive, uh, unfortunately. But then there's a couple that managed. For example, we just had a couple of ribbon cuttings. One is the Hair Bar and Spa over on Dean Drive a couple weeks ago, and then the new gym, is it Fit and Fine at 13th and Main?
Mhm.
Um, that's the one. But there was two ribbon cuttings. The one at the Hair Bar and Spa, that was actually her 1 year anniversary, where she had opened a year before, and then COVID hit, and then it just really impacted her business. So the ribbon cutting 1 year anniversary, and you just gotta give them credit, number one, for having the ability to open, but then to be able to maintain it during trying times. And I
Mhm.
think that you're going to see businesses that were struggling. I think hopefully they're going to be a resurgence, and just hopefully very prosperous for them and everybody. And I hope that, well, you keep saying, or I keep saying, I hope things get back to normal, but I think the new normal will change. It'll change with distancing, hand washing, handshakes, and then on the other end, I think most of us are getting tired of these Zoom meetings. But if you think about it, there's a few meetings where you probably get more participation because it's easier, and you might be somewhere else or another state. You can get more people to jump on in. So I think it's going to be probably a combination or a hybrid of in-person meetings as well as Zoom. But
Yes. Oh,
they
that's. Mhm.
certainly are impersonal, but at least it gets the job done.
Yeah, and also like the downtown and the dining outside at the different restaurants in town, not just the downtown, but throughout town that have been able to open up outdoor dining because of the circumstances. And now with people allowed to let people back in up to 25% capacity, why not stay open outside? I mean, I think it really just adds a wonderful ambiance, and people like eating outdoors, and hopefully that's going to become permanent.
Well, and for years, we, the citizens, were saying, "Hey, why don't they have allow outside dining?" And I restrictions, or maybe the sidewalks weren't as wide, or angle parking, whatever the reason that it was. Just was the city what didn't appear to be open to outside dining. But now that we have outside dining, well, at least not when it's raining or cold, but it certainly is nice to be outside. And if you talk about the new normal, at least for a while, there's some folks that are going to go to the restaurant and they're going to see that there's 25, 50% people inside, and they may not feel comfortable, but they might feel comfortable. Could I sit outside where it's fresh air and no walls and recirculating air conditioning? So hopefully the new norm for restaurants will be the inclusion or the maintaining and continuation of the outside dining.
Yeah, and of course it's ideal over the summer. So, I mean, that's the spring, even though we're having a very cold spring, but and it is, and it does add an ambiance everywhere. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if I could just add a couple of things, we last year so many groups, nonprofit, the city, private groups missed out anything from uh, like cruise night, the pumpkin patch, the parades, the street fairs. We missed out on so much last year, and I understand that there are discussions about possibly having cruise night. There's a discussion about possibly having the pumpkin patch this year. Who knows what will happen with Ghost Walk? Well, we see right now we're having the uh, the downtown street fairs and encouraging people to wear masks, but that is really looking forward and looking to getting back to normal. And I hope those things continue because it really not just brings our folks out, but it draws people from outside of town, which is what we want in Santa Paula. People to come and visit, spend their money here, maybe buy a house and live happily ever after.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the big offshoot of the most positive thing about tourism, and is how many great neighbors we've gotten because they came here as a tourist and said, "Oh my gosh, I've got to live there," and that's wonderful. Okay, well, very good thought, Carlos.
Thank you, Peggy.
Okay, I appreciate you being with us today as always, and I know you have a busy schedule, and thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm Peggy Kelly with the Mighty Santa Paula Times, and we've had Carlos Juarez, the mayor of Santa Paula, with us today. If you'd like to watch this, it'll be on channel 10, cable channel 10. It'll also be on kadytv.com. I always get too many .nets.coms, but it's on both. And when you watch it on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps bring more broadcasting to you. We appreciate it. And finally, once again, Carlos, thank you. Everybody out there, thank you. Be sure to wash your hands, social distance, don't gather, and stay well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.